Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Recruit Military Live, a continuing series of live broadcasts covering all things military transition, veteran employment, mil-spouse employment, and much, much more. My name is Lucas Conley, retired U.S. Army officer and former TAP program manager, here to share with you the ins and outs of making the move from military service to the civilian world of employment. If you're in search of meaningful employment, well, you're in the right place. Please visit rmvets.com/live to learn more. All right, let's roll right into the show today, folks. Are you thinking about leaving the military? Are you pending retirement? Do you have some concerns about being financially secure in the next phase of your life? I mean, who doesn't? Well, if you are, then you're watching the right show. Today's guest is a certified financial advisor who works closely with active duty service members, transitioning service members, retirees, veterans, and mil spouses alike to help them plan for their financial future. He wants you to be confident about your finances by implementing a strategy for investments that won't leave you feeling anxious. He takes his passion to the next level by hosting a monthly forum called Transition30. He brings together subject matter experts in military transitions, employment, VA benefits, insurance, retirement planning, and a host of other topics, all aimed at helping service members and veterans make the very best of their military transition from military service to civilian life, and to do it confidently in their financial situation. At the end of the show, he's going to tell us how you can reach out to him for a free 30-minute financial consultation. And boy, we do like free. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Todd Nelson. Todd.
Hey, Lucas, thank you so much. And on the subject of Transition 30, you're going to be joining me next couple of weeks, February 16th, on that call. We're going to have all kinds of guests on there from ACP and 4Block and a lot of other different nonprofit organizations, but you're going to be representing, talking about recruiting and some of that. And it's a great, great show. So join us.
And I'm really looking forward to it. You know, I consider myself a pretty smart cookie, but the folks that you have on the show, they have really got their stuff together. Those are very smart, very intelligent, very experienced individuals. So those of you who get a chance to tune in, please do. Absolutely. All right, folks, now that you know who we are, we'd love to hear who you are. Hit us up in that chat. Let us know where you're watching from, who you're with, who you served with, what your situation is. Are you getting ready to transition out? Are you retiring? Are you a mil-spouse trying to re-enter the workforce, or some other status that we haven't thought of? Also, if you've got questions, comments, issues, or concerns, we'd love to hear them, and time allowing, we'll address them. All right, as they say down on the flight line, we are wheels up. So, Todd, a lot of advice floating around, lots of financial counselors, lots of so-called experts. We've all heard the solid advice that they've handed out, and sometimes it's difficult to wade through it. I've heard pay down your debts, maintain 3 to 6 months worth of household expenses and cash reserve, create a budget. Today, we're focusing on some of the benefits and compensation decisions that transitioning service members have to make, most particularly retirees. Yeah. So cut us off. What are some of the big ticket items if you're getting ready to retire that we need to start thinking about now?
Yeah. So, one of the biggest things, Lucas, that we need to talk about is when it comes to SGLI, VGLI, all of those things. In that regard, it can be a multi-$1,000 decision that if you aren't prepared, you may end up being forced to make a decision that maybe you wouldn't have before. For instance, on the VGLI, it's all there. It's there for a reason. Great program. Nothing wrong with the program. Sometimes because of our service, you end up where VGLI is the option. And that's why Congress offers it. And it's a great plan, except if you can qualify for private insurance, it will save you thousands and thousands of dollars typically when it comes to premiums and some of that. So the thing about that we need to realize, let's dig a little bit deeper than maybe we get in a TAP class or, from your BSO. Let's assume that you're wanting to look at life insurance and VGLI is your only option. Well, if it's your only option because of some kind of physical deal going on with you, that's understandable. If it's because you delayed making decisions, that will end up costing you. And so for a VGLI on, according to FA.gov, if you're age 30 to 34, VGLI for $400,000, $36 a month, you're probably not going to beat it. However, by the time you get to 50, or between the ages of 50 and 54, VGLI goes up by every 5 years. Your premium now is $132 a month. And then by the time you get to 60 and thereafter that, it becomes really quite outrageous as far as what you're getting for the $400,000. So do your homework, do it ahead, make sure that you do the application process before you start your VA evals. If you're going through the BDD process and you're collecting all of those records and turning those in, you may be already too late, simply because the underwriters are now going to see all of those records
Right.
from your previous service. So,
and I've heard that before is line up your civilian insurance before you get that BDD.
absolutely.
So that you don't have a pre-existing condition. You know, when I was, I remember back to being a young lieutenant many, many years ago, and asked about SGLI, and there's a little box down there you got to check. You want 150, 250, 350, 400. I just shrugged my shoulders and picked one out of the blue. How does a retiree who's getting out after, say, 20 years, he's got a few kids, he's got a spouse, he's got a home, how does he know how much insurance is enough?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And if you want to take just a rule of thumb, and again, I do have to say none of this is considered financial advice. So make sure you do your homework. But if you want to do like 7 to 10 years, the thing about life insurance is not meant to replace your entire income for the rest of your life, so that your spouse or significant other never has to work again.
Right.
It's meant to be able to give them the opportunity to get back on their feet, maybe get some education, pay off a house, some of those things.
A jump start.
Yeah, it's a jump start. And so 7 to 10 years of your income, you multiply that, and that gives you your face amount. If you're making 70,000, 7 years, a $500,000 policy may be enough for you, may not. But that would be a rule of thumb. There's some more sophisticated ways of doing that. And with that, you'd want to talk to somebody that has like their life insurance license, or is able to help you walk through some of that.
And for some people, that's a lot of money. You know, if you've got 4 kids and they're all heading off to a 4-year private education and your spouse doesn't work, you may need $500,000. Whereas if you happen to be a single service member who's getting out after 6 years, who's single,
exactly,
you might not need anything at all, except perhaps, gap insurance on a vehicle payment.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The key is do your homework beforehand.
Absolutely. Now, during the process of transitioning out, many service members hear about Survivor Benefit Plan. Now, when Survivor Benefit Plan was put in front of me, and from what I hear, it's a great program based on individual needs, I was handed a piece of paper. I was asked about it. I was given a 15-minute spiel, and I think my brain was on something else. Like, when do I get my DD 214? How much longer am I going to be here? Am I done filing out yet? And then SBB lands on the plate, and I get a little bit of information. Then I just go, okay, check, sign. What's next? What do service members need to know about SBB?
Yeah, and for whatever reason, this is a controversial topic. When people bring this up, like on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, all kinds of people weigh in, and it really should be a very personal decision based off of your educated choices. Do not go into an out processing situation and not know what you're going to do with SBP, because again, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that you're making a decision on. And a lot of people don't realize you have to opt out of SBP. You can't, you are automatically enrolled in SBP. And so let's just do a little bit more than maybe that 15-minute, hey, here's what SBP is. I'll let you do your homework on what SBP is, but let's talk a little bit about if you're going to be, like, for instance, an E9, and you're going to be retiring after 20 years. I just pulled some information off of militarypay.defense.gov, and this is where I'm getting some of this information from. Okay, so typically in SBP, they're going to charge you 6.5%, and this is for 20 plus year folks. They're going to pull that at 6.5% off of your pension. And so some of these specific questions you want to talk to your BSO about, but on an E9, if you're 38 years old, you're 20 plus years, you're going to be getting about 38,000 and change in a pension, 38,300. That 6.5% translates then to $2,490 in premium your first year. And the thing that people also don't realize is that premium is going to continue to adjust up. You get a cost of living, a COLA adjustment, cost of living adjustment. That is also going to continue to adjust up. So $2,490 is going to be what you pay in your first year. By year 30, for instance, you're going to be paying a lot more than that. And the reason in 30 years, the premiums that you'll pay is close to $75,000. Okay. So it is, when I say it's multiple $1,000 decision, it is a multiple $1,000 decision, 75,000 in this scenario. And so the reason some people don't like SBP is if, let's say you're doing, if a spouse dies and you paid for 29 years, your premiums didn't get you anything because you're still alive. Your spouse is dead. There's no SBP. There's no SBP to pass along. Okay.
So it's non-transferable.
Exactly. Some people don't like that. Well, I get it, but you just have to realize that's part of the SBP program. On the other hand, if you opt out of SBP and you do decide you're going to go with like term life insurance, you still have the premiums to pay, and you may still not be getting anything in return. So what I tell transitioning service members: consider your health history, consider your spouse's health history, your family genetics, your discipline to continue to pay premiums outside of SBP. SBP is going to be automatically deducted out of your pension before you can even touch it. If you are going to opt for private life insurance, but then a year from now, I can't afford to pay the premiums, you could set yourself up for a lot of heartache and your family for a lot of heartache simply because you weren't disciplined enough to continue to pay the premium.
Yeah, too often you hear the stories of, an end of life situation and family members begin to dig in and find a lapsed insurance policy.
Yep.
But at the same time, if let's fast forward to 74 years old, all the kids are off to college, or well, probably off graduated, grandkids are probably off to college at that point. And all you have left is your final expenses. Your insurance needs are probably fairly low.
Yeah. And so SBP continues. So now after 40 years, if I remember correctly, it's 40 years, your premiums stop. So that helps. But you're still signing up for at least a 30 or 40 year commitment on that. So it's a big decision.
All right, Todd, if I'm so lucky as to live to 82 years old, I'll let you know whether or not they stop the premiums. Now, working as a TAP counselor, I saw transitioning service members on a daily basis and very frequently stress to them: get down there, get that disability claim started, because the military, most especially the Army, and if you've been in a light fighter unit for any long period of time, is a contact sport. All right. What do transitioning service members need to know about their disability compensation and as they retire, and perhaps as they start to look at what is taxable, what is not taxable, what about the retirement, what's taxable, what's not taxable, what do I need to know about state taxes? I mean, this is all, it makes my head hurt just thinking about it.
So that is a huge decision. And one of the posts that I just had on LinkedIn is, if you decide that your final move is going to be to Maine versus Tennessee, like for instance, or Texas or whatever, that can have a profound effect on your bottom line. Personally, because in Maine, my understanding is that they tax your pension, whereas in Texas they don't. So and there's a lot of different things in Texas. They are become a very vet friendly state, and yes. So that's where a lot of folks are moving, simply because there's education benefits, there's the not having the tax. It just, there's a lot. Now, your VA payments won't be taxed. It's your pension payments, and so So if you're, on VA, because you've earned those, and it's a payment for the
disability,
contracts
yeah.
that you've
Yep.
entered into. Those are not taxed, and so that's one thing to remember. The other thing to remember is when you're out processing. There, and my understanding is, I'm not a veteran, so I haven't filled out this form or had that form walk through it. But there's simply a checkbox where they ask you how much do you want withheld, especially your first year. This becomes a huge issue, and so I've heard it reported 10% is what normally people choose. Would you like to choose that? Yes. Okay, check it. The problem is that now you've entered into your second career. Let's say you're on terminal leave, you're double dipping because you're already with a civilian private job. You're making all kinds of money. You're loving life. And then the next year you realize that all of your extra income bumped you up maybe
It's a new tax bracket,
maybe 2 tax brackets, and you've only been having 10% withdrawn. And so literally every pension check you get, you are going in the hole hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And by the time it rolls around to next year, you get a several $1,000 tax bill that takes your breath away because you're like, wait a minute, you weren't prepared for it. So
Todd, I fell into that trap. I am guilty as sin. My first year out of the service, I don't even think I checked to withhold 10%. I think I just had it in my head. That's my money and you can't take it from me. And then I was down at my local tax preparer's office and I'm like, okay, how much am I getting back? And they looked at me and said, well, you owe the government $7,000. So you have the right file in front of you. That's Conley with 2 L's. Yeah. If you don't consider the fact that that federal retirement is taxed and set some money aside, you're going to have a very painful April.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's talk about TSP. We've got now TSP. We have blended retirement. What do our retirees need to understand about their blended retirement, about their TSP? I mean, can I just reach out and say, hey, give me my money. I want to go buy a new motorcycle?
Yep. So another great question. So TSP is set up similar to in the civilian sector, like a 401k plan, anything along those lines. So there are still guidelines with your TSP. And let's say you do your full 20 plus, but if you're not 59 and a half, that there creates issues. And if you haven't, and if you've done the traditional contribution versus Roth, all kinds of different rules. But on a 401k plan, once you separate from the military, you have the option then to do a couple of different things. You can keep it there. Some people just like L funds or like the S fund, like the G fund, why, anyway, we won't go into why you would like some of those funds. But, or if you get a new employer and they have a 401k plan, most plans will allow you to roll that over. Why would you consider rolling that over as opposed to taking it into like a private account, like a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA account? If you're in a high liability position, let's say you're a doctor, and when you enter into the private sector, you could get sued very, very easily, whatever the case may be. There are certain protections because of in 401k plans that your IRA plans or IRA accounts won't have.
Okay.
There's creditor protections that are built into the 401k. So if there's a big risk that you could get sued when you move into the private sector for whatever the reason, or you feel like creditors may be coming after you, the 401k plans have protections that the IRA accounts don't. So something to consider. You can also then, if you're going to be going down and making all kinds of money in IT or whatever the case may be, liability's low, you can roll that into your own traditional account, Roth IRA account, whatever it might be. That doesn't create any tax obligation, any tax event as far as the IRS is concerned. And the reason people do that a lot of times gives them typically a lot more flexibility to invest how they want. They don't have to just take, here's the funds that my plan is offering, or here's TSP. So typically that's the case. Now, there was a huge change in TSP back in June 1st of 2022. Up to 25% of your funds can be invested in the mutual fund window. And there are literally thousands of different options on that. They won't give you any guidance though. It's more expensive than just your typical regular funds. And so it's something to think about when you're making that change. But just like with anything else, there's a lot that goes into it. And it may not be something that you want to do, just make an arbitrary decision.
Great. Now, let's say, okay, so we've got the TSP. Maybe we've decided to roll that over into a Roth. We get into a new employment situation, and they start talking about 401k. And as a transitioning service member who joined the military at the age of 18, I don't know 401k from PS3. All right. And they say, we're going to 50-cent match on 6%. And I look at them and say, come see, come saw, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Can you translate that into English for us?
and that Lucas is probably one of the very best questions, simply because what I've learned about in this field is people are extremely intimidated to talk about money with somebody else, and because they're afraid, they're going to judge me off of, what do you mean you don't realize what that is? What do you mean? In that scenario, what that is saying, and each plan is going to be different. And so your HR department should be able to help walk you through a lot of the ins and outs. But what that's saying is we're going to take 6% out of your paycheck. If you're making $1,000, you're going to take $60 per pay period, and you're going to invest it in the company's 401k plan. And in that scenario, the company then will pitch in up to $30. So it's free money. That's when they say a 3% match. The company is saying, we're going to give you some extra money as an incentive for you to start saving for your future. And that would be like you walking out and saying, hey, I'm going to take this $1,000, but I'm also going to give you 30 extra bucks. Are you going to turn down the 30 extra bucks? Probably not. That's what that whole match is all about. As you get into Roth 401k options, and there's backdoor Roth conversions, and lots of more complex things, you may not want to approach that uneducated or in a place where you're new to that. You may want to talk to somebody and find out what would your advice be on that scenario.
Right. Now, let's say I got into that job and I'm putting in that $600 or $60 a month. The company's giving me $30 a month. I'm putting in $90 a month. But after a year, I decide, I don't really want to work here anymore. I want to go do something else. Yeah. So I get my statement from the investment company, and more than half of the money is missing. And I'm like, what happened here? So I call up the HR office, and they tell me, well, it was vested. And I said, what, like a bulletproof vest? What are they trying to explain to me?
Yeah. So again, this is another part that, because you're, like you said, if you're 18, you're 20 plus years out, this is all brand new to you. And so what that means is, and typically the stat is that you're going to leave your first job as a transition service member. Typically, I think it's like 70% within the first year, 60% within 2 years is like 80%. You're not in your same job. And so you're going to be faced with this. Investing simply means that the company is trying to induce you to stay. And so they'll say, we'll give you this $30 a month. But if you leave in the first year, you forfeit that $30 a month. Now, you can never forfeit the money that you contributed. That's important to know. They can't keep all 90 of it. They can only take back, based off of their vesting schedule, is what they call it. They can only take back what they would have given you had you stayed on for the full 2 years or whatever their full vesting is. So great question though.
Yeah. And I transitioned out of my first job at the 3-year mark. And actually, I believe it was 3 years and 1 week, because I was vested my 401k was vested at the 3-year mark. And hey, if you get offered a bonus, a sign-on bonus, and they say something about it's vested, you better fall in love with that company or not spend that money anytime soon.
Yeah.
They might want it back.
Absolutely.
All right, Todd, fantastic. We've covered on a lot of stuff. Let's just give you an opportunity here. If you had an opportunity in 30 seconds, just 30 seconds, to give one piece of advice to a retiree transitioning service member who are about to get out about what they need to get right with their finances, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing. Just remember, you're worried about your VA rating. You're worried about all kinds of different ratings. Just remember the word rate. Rate means to review the goals that you have in coming out. Whatever that is, make sure you have planned, where am I going to live? Because that's going to be a huge part. Make sure that you've reviewed all of your goals that you want. And then remember that in rate is assess. Make sure that you assess and remember that BAS, BAH, that all goes away. And so those things become a huge expenditure that you're adding. And most transition service members, for whatever reason, they got DD 214 on the brain. They forget that, oh my gosh, all of that goes away. So make sure that you take an honest assessment. And then the T is tailor your solutions to your goal. Don't listen to your buddy down the road that is working with the insurance company that says you need to buy a whole life insurance policy, because you may not need to. Don't listen to them when they're talking about crypto or hey, I've got this stock. Or make sure that it's tailored to what you need, to what your family need. I have a client that I'm working with that instead of working, he's making huge money with AWS now, but instead of working for the next 20 years, he wants to work because he wants to go into ministry. Mm-hmm. Well, that changes your whole scope. And then the last thing, E, make sure you execute. You can put all these plans together. Oh, I'm going to do this. I've got this budget. But if you don't execute it, you're going to end up, money is like water. It flows to the place of least resistance. You'll end up spending all of your money, your VA, your pension, on all the great things. And at the end of the day, you'll be knee deep or neck deep in debt, and you haven't done a thing towards your plan. So that's
I love it. And you know what? The thing that really sticks out in your advice there in my mind, and something my grandmother told me, and you talk about the folks that are trying to sell you something. They said, my grandmother used to say, never take advice from somebody that's trying to sell you something, because their advice is always going to be the same. Buy this. You need it. Well, Todd, thanks for the words of wisdom. Thanks for the advice. I know that our folks out there who've been paying attention that are going to make better financial decisions as a result. And tell them a little bit about Transition 30 and how do they get one of these free 30-minute consultations?
Yeah. So Transition 30, it is bi-monthly. It's not monthly, but it is geared towards getting you different resources. Again, 5-minute elevator pitches. Why would you want to get in touch with Recruit Military? Why would you want to get in touch with ACP? Why would you want to get in touch with Block? We put the SMEs in front of you that can give you the information, SkillBridge, Hiring Our Heroes, all of those things. And so 5 minutes, 12 different presenters, lots of different information. And if you want to find out more about that particular organization, you know who to reach out to because they're right there in front of you on the Zoom call. That's Transition 30, free. You do have to register. Follow me. You'll be able to see the next time that we have those. And of course, we try to get the information out on that. If you want to talk to me, lots of different complexities when it comes to transitioning. My name's Todd Nelson. My investment firm is Edward Jones. If you look me up on LinkedIn, just request to be connected to me, follow me, whatever the case may be. I always give you the opportunity to know how to connect. And the first 30-minute, especially, I try to have a pay it forward process because I'm a minister. I want to try to help. My passion is to help you as you transition. So I do as much as I can to pay it forward without there being any obligation or invoice in the mail or me giving you a timeshare pitch. No high pressure timeshare pitches, just good information. And reach out to me. 30 minutes, it's free. I'll do what I can to Now, what I can't do is I can't give you specific advice. That's the one thing you have to know. If you're not a client of mine, I can't tell you, hey, this is what you should do with your money. So,
Todd, we need to get you a tagline or something like 30 minutes could save you 30% or something like that. All right.
I'm thinking about it.
All right, folks. If you need to find a financial advisor, you know where to find one now. Todd, thanks for being on the show today.
Lucas, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And for all those of you out there in internet land, if you haven't already done so, go to www.recruitmilitary.com, where you will find over 400,000 job opportunities with 16,000 plus employers. Recruit Military is on a mission to help veterans, transitioning service members, and mil spouses find meaningful employment opportunities. So swing by our website and check us out. And if you are so inclined to hear some more great information, some great advice, some great lessons learned about transition into civilian employment, tune in next week when we interview Josh Kaler from Eaton Industrial and Electrical. He'll be taking us through his transition process and passing on some of the lessons he learned retiring from the military and going to work for Eaton. Until then, this has been Lucas Connolly for Recruit Military Live. Good luck and Godspeed.